Welcome back. So today we're going to talk about looking into the future. Now, when we look into the future, we're going to be specifically talking about dietary habits. We're going to talk about when we generally have a tendency to mess up, whether we're on a diet or we overeat or there's certain circumstances. Chances are they're not new. They're not new. They didn't just show up all of a sudden. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know why. I just overate all of a sudden. Most people that I've ever worked with, okay, they have conditions. And when those conditions are met, the habits present themselves, the negative ones. Now, why is this important to recognize? Well, let's say you go through your day and it's, you have your breakfast, your lunch, you're at work, you have your snack between 3 and 5 before you go home. And then you get home, you put your stuff down, you kind of wander around a little bit, check the mail, and while you're thinking about what to have for dinner, you start snacking on stuff. Okay? And you're snacking, or you start cooking dinners, you're whipping something together and you start snacking. Or maybe you have a really rough day. Like you just have a rough day, so you know that you have these go-to foods, like your comfort foods. Like, you know what, I'm just going to eat this, right? Completely forgetting about the goals, completely forgetting about everything. You're just going to eat this, right? Well, what I want to talk about is in regards to looking into the future is we know they're coming. We know they're coming. Like we know those are going to happen. If not now, then probably soon. So what we want to do is best prepare for them. If we know that we're going to be hungry right before cooking dinner, or we know we're going to go crazy eating snacks before we leave work, or we know if we don't eat a snack in the morning and we work for, say, 6 hours and have a late lunch, that we're going to eat a ton of food at lunch and feel terrible afterwards. Like we know these things. So the very first thing we want to do is let's look at our past to look in the future. Let's go back and think of maybe one time, maybe 2 times where you've done a behavior, but more than once. So you've overeaten in the afternoon, or you waited too long to eat and you ate too much food, or foods that maybe you didn't feel good about afterwards. And what we want to do is get very clear on those situations. What did you have? How did you feel? Did you know you were eating badly while you were eating it, but you just couldn't stop? How long were you eating? Was it about 20 minutes or so? Because that's about how long it takes for the stomach and the brain to communicate that you're full. And by that time, generally, we've eaten too much rather than slowing down. And if you've heard people say, slow down, when you're that hungry, you're in those kind of frenzy modes for a variety of reasons, it's not that easy. But what we can do is begin to offset those things. So once you have some of those, what I'd like for you to do is think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 healthy snacks, things that would make you feel good that are contextually similar, okay? So if you have something that's sweet, think sweet. Now, if you're having chocolate cake, I'm not saying get a lower calorie chocolate cake or less chocolate cake. What I am saying is when you do have these things, think contextually sweet, meaning you could have a banana along with something else. If you have something sweet and salty, maybe it's nuts and fruit. If you have something where it's like almond butter or peanut butter with sliced apples. If it's a salad that you really, really overeat, what is it about that salad that you crave that you want to ensure that you're satiated? Is it being full? Is that feeling of fullness where perhaps a protein shake might do better, or something really high in fiber with water, or some sort of liquid that you can have that would keep you full and perhaps expand? So contextually, what is it? Think of what you normally have in those situations and think of something contextually similar, but a healthier version that you may be able to have, let's say, an hour or 2 before, like midway from the time that we start, whatever this gap is before these decisions, and then something after. Now, let's say you're like, well, Mike, it has nothing to do with that, right? I have to feel full when I go to sleep. Okay, perhaps you have to feel full. So feeling full doesn't mean it has to be bad foods that make you feel full. Think of the foods that you eat and what could you have that might be better. Let's say it's stress. You have a really stressful day, and when you do that, you crave carbohydrates. Well, it's not unusual. We want our tryptophan and we want our serotonin. And we want to calm down. We want to simmer down a little bit when we have these stressful days. So our body's going to start craving more of these carbohydrates. Additionally, our brain uses a lot of glucose. So if we're low on sugar to begin with, we start freaking out. Not only do we need to calm down, we got to get things back to normal. So planning these things in advance there's nothing wrong with having carbohydrates if that's what you're going for, but perhaps think quantity, right? If you're stress eating, think about those triggers. What is it that causes you to be stressed? Remember, we're looking at the past. Generally speaking, there's going to be situations that present themselves more than others that give us that opportunity to eat or feel like we should. Maybe that's for a sense of control that we want to have that. Maybe it is to calm down. Maybe it brings back something else. But what we want to think about is, has there ever been a time where you've been stressed and you didn't look for food as a solution? Okay. What we want to also think about is coping mechanisms. And you can look up all sorts of stress coping mechanisms. We'll do other videos on that are more specifically designed for that: breathing patterns, pattern interrupts, distracting ourselves, letting things pass, making space, holding space. We'll go over some of those things. But in this video, we're just going to think about the situations, contextually similar. What can we do to be better prepared to make better decisions when we find ourselves reaching for bad or unhealthy choices? So take a moment. Number one, let's look at these situations where we made less than better decisions regarding our dietary choices. Two, let's think of those conditions around those things. What was it about that led us to make those decisions? Three, why did we make those decisions? What was it about what we had or ingested that made us want that in that moment? Four, what's contextually similar that can interrupt that craving if we have it a little bit earlier? And then what are some different options that we can have around that? So think about those things. I hope this video helps, and let's look in the future so we can make better decisions. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon.